Hey everybody, welcome to the studio once again, my lovely studio here in sunny Southern California. As always, I'd like to do a little bit of an introduction of EIS. Thanks for joining us today. It's really going to be a special program today. But we want to let you know what EIS is. It's a counseling, coaching, and mentorship entity that really helps people find the freedom within themselves to become who they genuinely are. And in doing so, then we can discover our why and our purpose, as opposed to what we might think of a counseling firm where we go to fix something that might be wrong with us. This is a completely different approach. And so how do we do that? It's really about employing a process that affords people the opportunity to go far enough into their past and uncover their broken, unhealed, and undealt with areas that basically prevent them from becoming the people that they really are designed to be in every area. That would be business, relationships, marriage, other employment settings, really just the whole person, not just fixing certain areas, so to speak. And then we also extend this process into leadership development, as we believe leadership starts from within in the home and is translated outwardly from there. It's not just about being a great problem solver or decision maker, but much more in terms of being developing a heart to lead, desiring to raise others up, to be the same person that we're becoming as to, who they're called to be, developing character, integrity, accountability, and other hallmarks of genuine leadership. So we offer a comprehensive approach to personal growth, from the individual to CEOs in business and everybody in between. And then in addition, throughout the broadcast today, you're going to see some banners on the screen intermittently to see how, if you would like to connect with us on any level, it'll be eisolutions.co, and we'll have that up on the screen occasionally so you can get a hold of us. And then these live shows like we're doing here today are here to feature testimonies of people's lives that have been transformed in many ways, that are still on their journey, of course, other professionals in the field of helping others in similar ways, some of our EIS staff counselors, authors of books that we believe are important, resources that support our work here at EIS, and so on. So before we get started, I want to remind you that you're welcome to ask questions throughout the broadcast and post them. And at the end or near the end of the hour, then we'll be able to go through some of those questions, and you just can post them in your comments. And Vanessa is going to grab those and put them aside for our time towards the end there. So as we get rolling today, I want to introduce a great friend of mine. She's been a friend for many, many years now, and an associate as well. Her and her husband, Tony, and as many of you know, are a highly successful couple with their own business called Customize Your Life. And she's a dynamic leader in her own right in many different arenas. And there's a special reason that I invited her to join us today, is because our guest and her had met at an event. I'll let her share about that. That's how they got connected. And then we were then connected after that. But as I introduce Frances, I want to let you know she's only going to be hanging out for the first section of the broadcast here. And then Vanessa and Matt are going to be taking over, because Frances is perpetually triple booked at least. So please welcome Frances Papillardo. Hey.
Hi. Oh, it's so good to be here.
It's good to see
you. Thank you for that generous introduction as well. If it weren't for Bill Hoffman, those of you that are listening, my husband and I, we wouldn't be married. And I certainly attribute so much of our success in business and life really to the tools that we've taken from Bill's teaching, his counseling in our life, and applied it. I do not know where I would be, to be honest with you, without it. It was such a lifesaver. And so we thank you so much, Bill, and thanks for having me here. I'm really excited about today's guest.
Me too. And when you talk like that, it reminds me of those early days. And man, we really come a long, long way, haven't we?
What were some of your favorite moments, Bill? Like the time we got into an argument in your office and one of us stormed out. I won't say who.
No, I think the best one was when Tony left the room on the Zoom call.
Oh, you said who? Oh, that one. That was different.
Yeah, that one there.
Zoom call. Yeah.
And when he was coming back in, he heard me say something to you like, "It's okay. He'll eventually get it." And then he came back into the picture and he said, like, what am I going to get, Bill? What am I going to get?
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite
Yeah,
ones.
what, Bill? Tell me what I'm gonna get. Yeah, the Zoom barrier helps a little bit if you want to leave an uncomfortable conversation, for sure. But we had those moments in person where I think maybe he left and walked the circles of the hallway and came back, and of course I was just a mess and crying and who knows what. And then the Zoom moments, and oh man, the car rides, the long car rides to and from counseling sessions. But boy, are we so thankful for all the work that we put in with you, because we just, our marriage is totally different. Our marriage is actually a marriage now. And our life and the way that we live it, it's at another level. So
yeah, and you guys, of course, and what we've been able to create with EIS gives people like, we'll meet Vanessa and Matt again in a few moments, but they're an example of a couple that are dating that get to look at you guys and so many other examples of healed, marriages and changed lives, that we don't just have to keep living that way,
Absolutely. We don't have to text our counselor from the train as we're taking off to North Carolina because we're leaving our marriage. I won't say who did that one. That one was
kind of dropping the grenades on the counselor, like, okay, what am I supposed to do now?
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, God's been good to us, right? Lots of grace.
Amen. Absolutely.
Well, anyway, I'm excited about today, as you are, and introducing our guest. I knew when I met Marten that this was really going to be a special relationship on a lot of different levels. Marten is the CEO and co-founder of a global food safety company. I'll let him, share about that. He's originally from Sweden, but he's lived in the United States for 25 years. Spent 20 years traveling around the world managing facility services for companies like, small companies like HP, Amazon, it looks like Agilent Technologies and others. And he began his process journey, I guess, about 3 months ago. And we've been working together ever since. And he's going to be sharing his perspectives on, of course, his journey, especially from his position as a CEO. And but not just in that arena in business, but also his personal life as well. So I'm gonna bring Marten on, and then Francis, you and he can kind of maybe lay the groundwork for us of how you guys met. So let's welcome Marten Stenfors. Hey, Marten.
Hey. Thank you for having me. I love that intro. Now the expectations bar is pretty high.
Well, it's just so great to have you here. And, you and I've had lots and lots of conversations just about, being genuine and being the real genuine persons that really we were meant to be, and you're just such a great example of that. And I'm so happy that you ran into Francis and Tony on Necker Island. So maybe you can chat a little bit about how that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I had the privilege together with my wife to be invited to Necker Island, Richard Branson's island out in the British Virgin Island. And already at the airport, when they were testing us for COVID, there was a woman sitting there with a mask on saying, "You're going to Virgin Island or to Necker Island, right?" And I'm like, "Yes." And that happened to be Francis. And then we headed out to, you remember that?
Yeah.
You came in on a different flight, and then we headed out to the island. And we were in quarantine the first 24 hours, I think. And then we got to hang out together and spend time together. And then Francis and Tony, they did their spiel about leadership and how we can become better. And it resonated very well with me. And I realized that I need to talk to the two of them as soon as I can.
And, I remember that moment, meeting you and at so just for our viewers, because to fly into the British Virgin Islands, it's you come into these really, really small terminals because you're island hopping. So you're taking a small plane or a boat to the actual islands that you need to get to. And how amazing were those COVID tests, Marten?
What did we go through? 4 or 5 of them before we were allowed to do anything.
So many, and then more on the back end, and they weren't playing. I think they got all the way to my brain at one point. It was real.
It tickled the back of my skull. the way they did it. It was tough, but I also learned something, and that is that all depending on who you see, they have a different kind of approach to it. And there were some of those people that tested us that were really, really good.
Really
and
good.
some of them would need to understand a little bit better what it's like to be tested before they test others.
That's a good point.
You got tested in a different way, Martin, didn't you?
We before I left San Francisco, I got a short test, a small swab that tested. But then when we got to British Virgin Island, they had this, it looked like it was like 3 feet long, and they just said, lean your head backwards, and then all of a sudden you felt a tickle at the back of your skull, and that happened a couple of times.
And
I was referring to the APS test. That gave you a tickle in the back of your skull too, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and they tell you not to move. So the APS, which is hilarious because they're jamming it back in there, and then they're like, "Don't move," and you're trying not to cry. But we were so thankful they kept us safe, and we really wanted to be mindful with Richard and his wife Joan, and at their age as well. We all wanted to be very careful, and we're very grateful that Necker provided those safety precautions as tough as they were for some of us. Sometimes we do a COVID test and then eat our breakfast. But
and I would do it again because it was amazing to be there. And
absolutely.
I think that was my first experience, kind of post being locked up. And it was fascinating to be there and actually be able to hug people and talk to people without being worried. It was an incredible feeling.
Us too. Do you remember the first night that we all came out together, and just how we were all kind of cautiously walking towards each other? And it was like, what do we do? Do we shake hands? Do we, but by the end of the trip, everyone was just like family. And it was just so amazing. So yeah, Bill's referring to the APS test that you took. So for context, for those that are watching, my husband and I presented on leadership, as Martin said, but really just, customizing your life, which is our philosophy. And we talked a lot about our vulnerabilities, our pitfalls, the mistakes that we made in terms of whether it was our relationship or our business that got us to where we were at. Because we've always learned best from other people's mistakes. We've always learned best from mentors who've told us, here's what we did right, here's what we did wrong, and then we can take that and not make the same mistakes. So we had a beautiful opportunity to share. I mean, Martin, how amazing was that the Elders Temple, where Nelson Mandela's organization, the elders, they meet in that temple to make some of the world's largest decisions. Yeah. I felt fortunate to breathe in that room, maybe sneeze, let alone present. It was quite the honor. And so we were able to give everybody on the island the APS test that Bill's referring to, the temperament test, and see how that played out. So the first time we presented, at the very end, everybody took their temperament test, got their results back within 24 hours. And then the second time, we all came in the room and we talked about the results. And it was so interesting to see how everybody responded, because for our viewers, if you know some of the temperaments like choleric or melancholy or supine or sanguine, it's always so interesting to see the sanguines are huddled up on the couch talking all about the test and how excited they are. The cholerics are in the back, kind of skeptical, like saying things like, yeah, it wasn't accurate. That wasn't me. Nah, it wasn't right. And I could just see everybody grouped up already. I knew who was who right away, just by the way they were responding to the results in the room. And what an amazing conversation it started that day for everybody to really just see now through a different lens. And then those conversations carried on throughout the week. And still to this day, when I talk to different friends from Necker, we use the temperament language to talk about a lot of situations and ways they're responding to things in life as a useful tool to help them understand. But Martin really especially took to the test. And we had maybe a 2-hour conversation. I wasn't timing it, but we got lost in conversation talking all about the test. And I had that opportunity then to learn about Marten and his life, and what an incredible human being you are. I mean, Marten, I hope you share, and I'm going to stop talking because I want you to start talking, but I hope you share during this broadcast how you have 9 lives.
Yeah.
Because Marten, he's telling me, I won't give anything away except there is an avalanche involved. So I'll drop that seed. So now all our viewers, they're not going to get off until they hear that avalanche story, because trust me, you want to hear it. But he is just an incredible human being, a brilliant entrepreneur, brilliant. Out of all of us there, Marten is the one that, he sat down with the general manager of Necker Island and secured some accounts with his incredible technology that he's created that's going to serve the world and is serving the world in a very useful, forward-thinking way. So that was really cool to see that conversation take place there at the table. And I just know great things are happening in your life. And I know that the work that you've done with Bill now is going to help take your work to the next level in so many areas of life. So excited to hear from you today.
Thank you. I don't know where to start, but I have to share, because this is what really kind of transformed my time there in a way. Because I have, like Bill said, I've traveled around the world. I've sat in global conferences and leadership conferences in most countries in the world, and there's always some kind of test or a 360 review or something like that. So when Francis and Tony came up, I'm like, okay, this is another one of those. And wow, I was wrong. I was majorly wrong. It was very different. I took the test. It was very simple. And then I got the result back. And I'm like, wow, this is very intriguing in a positive way. I needed to learn about myself. So I listened to everything that was said and realized that this is the first test I've taken in my life that actually resonates very well with who I am. But I didn't understand how to interpret the results. I kind of flagged down Francis and said, sorry, I need to take your time. I need to understand this, who I am. And like you said, we started to talk, and I spilled my whole life over you there in 2 hours, I think, before we went off and played tennis, I think. And I learned so much from it. With the struggles that I have had in life, all of a sudden things started to fall in place, and that I needed to do something about it. And I didn't need to pretend to be macho man that can live through anything, but it's okay to be vulnerable. And that was quite interesting. So I shared with Francis that I think I'm on this earth for a reason, because I have gone through quite a bit. I've been in car accidents, I have been stabbed, I have been buried in avalanches, I have been bitten by a rattlesnake, I have drowned, and been revived, obviously, since I'm sitting here. So I knew that there was a reason for me being here and doing something better than being stuck in the corporate world some years ago, but I didn't really know why. I just knew that I love helping people. And needed to learn more about myself to be able to help people. So it was an amazing experience for me to go through that. And thanks to that, I met Bill. Go ahead, Francis, you were about to say something.
And did you, and I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I remember on the island that I believe you told me that the test and learning from the test, just in that brief 24 hours, actually helped you then move into that meeting with the general manager. Is that correct?
Say that again.
When you met with the general manager on Necker, I remember you saying that the insight that you received from taking the temperament test helped you then go into that meeting with more confidence.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's I think the most important point, because I'm 6'3" and weigh 230 pounds. I'm a big person, but I've always gone into meetings a little bit as an underdog based on how I came about in this world. So I've always walked in thinking that I'm not the highlight. I'm happy if people listen to me, but it's not that I'm the main kind of attraction in there. So going to that meeting, first I was nervous about it because I thought, okay, how do I do this the best way? But after you and I talked, I realized that, wow, I actually have something that I can contribute with. I actually add a value in this, which was quite a good feeling to go in with instead of going in a little bit as an underdog. And that has been part of my life. I have had, like you said, Bill, I've worked for many large global companies, and I have run departments that have been some of the best performing departments in the company. Still in the leadership team meetings, I have been sitting there being silent because I didn't think that highly of myself, and understanding that you actually come with value, that you do add value is quite important, and not doubt yourself in what you are and what you can contribute with.
And just to give our viewers, most of our viewers, usually, at least regular viewers, are very familiar with temperament, as Francis was talking about temperament language. Is it okay if I share your temperament with them? Because, even the things that you're saying, I'm listening with my temperament ears, and some of the discussions that we've had about, you can allude to this later, but the Marlboro Man kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, is that okay if I go ahead and do that?
Absolutely. Nothing to hide here.
Okay, so Marten is a supine in inclusion, a choleric in control, and a sanguine in affection. What a combo. And it's been an interesting journey for him, and he's going to be, kind of expounding on that in a few minutes along the journey that he's going to share. But it's been an interesting ride, for him to understand the strengths and weaknesses of his temperament, where they show up, where they historically have shown up, and the ways that he's created cyclical patterns in his life, like all of us have, that have not been helpful getting him where he wants to go for years and years and years, and then leading to coping and hoping and winding up in lots of situations where, how did I get here again, kind of a thing. That's what cycling will do for you.
Yeah.
Kind of, Francis, like you were sharing before about how it was in the beginning, it's like we're doing stuff over and over again, expecting a different result somehow, that things are going to change, but we don't realize that we hold the key to that,
Right.
to unlock the realities of who we genuinely are through temperament. And the rest is kind of, follows through on that. So Francis, are you going to be taken off at this point?
Well, I'm going to leave you guys here, but I'm going to stay on to listen because Marten, I'm so proud of you. You have such a huge heart and such a big energy about you that I just know that you've been on a journey already of helping people through the products that you've produced with Phenium. But I believe this is the start of another journey for you, another facet to your life where you're really going to be helping people through sharing your story, which is not an easy thing to do. It takes courage, it takes strength, and it takes a willingness to be vulnerable, which is brave. But I've seen my husband go on this journey, and I've seen, especially for men, because women, I think it's more normal or more common for a woman to share their vulnerabilities, less common for a man to do it. But when somebody like my husband, somebody like yourself shares, it opens the door for other people. It opens the door in their mind for them to go, okay, wow, he went through that and he came out on the other side. And, so I'm so excited. So I will be leaving, but not leaving, because I'm going to be listening to every single word, and just so excited to hear from you today. So thank you, Bill. Thank you, Marten.
Thank you. Great seeing
Thanks,
you.
Francis. Best to everybody. Bye. I'm going to let Vanessa and Matt in now, so let's welcome them. Hey, guys. Thanks for being at the ready, as always.
Of course.
As always, love it so far. Very excited.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, Marten and I've enjoyed our every meeting together that we've had, of self-discovery with you, and kind of walking that journey with you and hearing your experiences of how your eyes have been opened in so many different ways. But before we, let's kind of circle back a little bit, just because I always like to have people get to know us a little bit, on the broadcast, a little bit of where you came from, kind of leading up to, this change after Necker Island and you and I getting together. So can you do that for us?
Absolutely. It can be a story that lasts for weeks, but I will try to cut it down a little bit. But obviously, as you hear, I have an accent. I was born and raised in Sweden. Lived many years in Italy with my parents, also grew up partly in Switzerland. So I come from a very privileged family and have seen a lot and have had access to a lot of things that many other people have not had in their lives. So I realized that I have had a very good kind of platform to start off on. And but I was short and fat as a child and bullied. And I think up until I was 9 years old, something like that, I was bullied. And it's odd how that is, because it still sits in my system that when I walk into a room, I'm still short and fat. I'm not 6'3", 230 pounds. I'm, more like 3 foot and 100 pounds, kind of. So I'm a little bit like an odd situation there in life, despite having a really good background. And when we lived in Rome, I was still short and fat, and my dad was teaching architecture students Roman architecture, and all the students called me Putti. And Putti, for you who have been to Italy, Putti are those kind of angels, small fat angels that are decorating churches in Italy. So that was my nickname. So it kind of stuck with me that I'm short and fat. But then something happened. I started to grow up and get bigger and realized that I do have a presence. But getting rid of that being short and fat that I have in my head, not that I saw myself as short and fat when I looked in the mirror, but the mental image in my head was that I'm short and fat. And there was since I came from a privileged family, there was a lot of expectations of how successful you should be in school and businesses. And I was kind of a goof. I dropped out of high school twice because I wanted to do something else. I worked as a ski bum in Switzerland, and I worked as a landscaping architect and a contractor, and then I realized I need to do something. So I went in mandatory military service in Sweden. So I was a Navy SEAL in the Swedish military and focused on being a quartermaster. And there you learn discipline. And the saying that you don't become a real man until you have done your military service, that was true for me. The easy thing is that, as you know, Sweden is not partaking in many wars, and we're not attacking people really anywhere. We're kind of staying pacifists in Sweden. So I never had to participate in anything like that. But I really realized that how powerful it is to know who you are and the control, because I come then from a background where nothing what I did was good enough. I could come home from school and have 9 out of 10 or 99 out of 100 on a test. It was still not good enough. I was asked, okay, why didn't you get 100? And I was super proud of getting 99. So I became a little bit of a troubling person. I did all the stuff that one should not do, except for drugs. And then military service, as I said, brought me back in a good place. And then I did my education in Stockholm at the Royal Institute of Technology and finally got my master's. But once again, I got sick and tired of school and the discipline that was around the school. So I started my first startup then, together with a few friends, an aviation catering company. And once again, I was humbled about learning new things in life and how you can be as a leader and how important it is to be honest and truthful to employees. I remember one situation where I had to demote the person, and I was so immature that I told other people about the demotion and not the person who really needed to get demoted. And then she heard it the rumor way, and I've never felt so dumb in my entire life. How hard was it to actually go and tell her instead of telling everybody else? So once again, humbled by life. And then about 25 years ago, my wife imported me to US. She had been here for a while. She's from Finland. And I was a COO of a maintenance, facilities management and maintenance company in Sweden, and I come to US and I'm nothing. My education is not really worth anything, and so I had to start from the ground again, working as a real estate appraiser for a Hong Kong Chinese guy in San Francisco, and learned a lot about that. But I was lucky. Once again, like I said before, there is a reason why I'm on this earth somehow. So a person who became my sponsor and mentor helped me to go back into the world where I came from, and have had the privilege to work for some of the largest facilities management and food service companies in the world after that, in very good positions. And but still, like Bill said, every now and then I become the Marlboro man that I ride off when things get tough or I don't know how to face problems. I put on that cowboy hat and I ride into the sun, to rather than confronting the challenges. And I think it wasn't until I really talked to Frances the first time when I realized that it doesn't have to be that way. And then she contacted me with Bill, and we have had very many, very insightful and very exciting calls. I think not a single call has stayed to the 1 hour that we have set it to be. It has been hour and a half, and other people have suffered because of me babbling too much.
Well, Martin, to come on the heels of what you just said there too, I think it's so important that in terms of your temperament, I guess one of the simplest ways to view it is that, it was relatively easy to uncover how you operated in the negative attributes of your temperaments and how you operated in the positive. But most of your reactions in life and business, in your marriage too, you might want to share a little bit about that too, is that, once you reach that place, like, for example, how in your supine you would just kind of roll over and not address things, or, would get on the Marlboro man horse and just say, sorry, not going to deal with this kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And there's no genuineness or actually dealing with anything in the middle of all of that.
Yeah. I mean, I have become, I think we talked about it in the term, as a voluntary victim in a way, because instead of confronting issues and stating my opinion, speaking up, saying what I really want, I have been like, it's better. Say, yes, it's better. Then we don't have any trouble, or there won't be any fight or issues. And I got stuck in that. And that then led to, I believe, we haven't really talked about it, but my wife thinking this is pathetic. He's always like giving up. And then I become a yay sayer, right? And then I'm not happy with each other. And then you are in a down spiral. And when I come to the bottom, I jump up on my horse and I ride off, because then I've gotten too much. Or I go to what a lot of people call silence treatment, which is not silence treatment. It's the man cave. I jump into the man cave because I think no matter what I say or do, it's wrong or I'm hurting somebody. So then I go in and I realize that, it's better that I'm just silent. Why do I even speak? Instead of just honestly say that this is what's going on. So it's easier to hide. And you won't believe, I had the most amazing excuses in life not to be in certain situations, because I so feared standing on the stage or standing in front of a large group of people, that I had the most amazing excuses for not doing it, instead of just going up and be okay. When I was younger, I sweat very easily, and I was super nervous about going on the stage because I was not worried about talking to people, but I was worried about sweating, which is kind of stupid because we all sweat in one way or another. So I, just 10 minutes before I was supposed to go up to things, I have bailed out and said that I got stomach sick, or I skidded off the road with a car, any kind of excuse to not be there. Which I now afterwards talked to Bill about it, and I've written it down in my scribing. It's like, wow, did I really do that? And I'm like, yes, you better own it now because you did it. So, and that is a fascinating journey to realize that and change. And still, I have a hard time with confrontation, but I think I'm getting better. I'm learning it, thanks to Bill.
Well, and yeah, being honest with yourself, you're finding out is really serving other people and serving, your significant other and your family members, and you're serving them well by being honest and truthful about things. The other way is just survival techniques and just self-preservation, because I don't want to go into that fire, or it's okay, I'll just go do this, some other, deflection, and so on and so on. And again, like, this has been manifested in your business life and also in your home life. And we've talked about, both of those areas. For everybody's benefit too, I want you all to know, like, how important this actually is. There's not too many CEOs that are going to get up on a broadcast like this and kind of bare their soul and be this much of an open book to be able to share these things. But it's the very thing that Marten has found has made sense of it all and given it the value that we were mentioning earlier and the substance. Marten, you can keep going and talking about, you've told me stories about, like, the lake and the guy at the lake, and all of these different things, that everything in your life since we've been meeting together, it's almost like there's a divine appointment waiting for you one way or another, who winds up being yourself. It's like you're running into the genuine you everywhere you turn.
Yeah.
Another opportunity for you to exercise what you're gaining.
Yeah, no, and it's a fascinating journey, because it's so. I love to help, I love to support, I love to do things, but to be able to that, you need to give your all right into it, and you need to trust yourself. And I've been, like I said before, I'm a Swede, so we don't talk about ourselves when it comes to what we have accomplished, but I have been fairly successful in life, and considered an expert in many areas, or a leader in many areas. But I have never considered myself that. It's other people that have told me that, hey, do you know that you are? Why don't we use you as the front person? I'm like, God, no, don't talk about me. I'm just a small person. So it has been a challenge for me to realize that I'm actually pretty good at some things in this life, and I do add value. But then I come to these, what I call the panic moments, when I feel like I have no control. And I think that's one of my temperaments there, that I feel like I'm running out of control. And when I feel like I'm running out of control, I panic, because I'm not used to not knowing what's going on. And so I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, because I tried once when I was 16 to drink, and I lost control. And I'm like, oh no, I'm never going to drink again, because I don't like the situation of being out of control. So coming into meetings, it can be speaking at the wedding or being at the business meeting, I so often have had self-doubt in, why would they listen to me? Why do I add value? But what if they start laughing at my ridiculous accent, or what I'm saying? Perhaps it doesn't make sense. And then I have instead come up with a good excuse of not doing it. But I think over the last 4 or 5 years after I left the corporate world, I had to go through a huge change, because starting up your own company, of course, there were other people with me. All of a sudden, you are the company spokesperson, you are the CEO, you are the secretary, you are the travel agent, you are the salesperson. Nobody else will do it for you. So you have to kind of learn about yourself, stand your ground, and unlearn old bad behaviors, which is really, really tough.
I think that's so key, Marten. Something I wanted to ask you, I'm a supine as well, and I have a very agreeable spirit, and something I'm working on with Bill is, not that I'm a yes man, but I would rather avoid the conflict because of root systems I have in my childhood. I would normally be like, let's not go there into the fire. It's just not necessary. And It's just been a pattern forever. So for yourself as a CEO, I'm sure there's been a million circumstances on a daily basis where you need to confront situations. You need to confront, and just have that confrontation, or just speak up, speak your mind. How have you done, or how have you implemented since working with Bill to start to really, I guess, start to grow in that area, in an area it sounds like that you were normally proficient in or enjoyed?
Yeah, so it is a lot to let go, right? First of all, you have to realize it, because it's easy to be very proud and think you know everything and think that there's nothing wrong with you. And self-reflection can be enormously painful, right? Because you have to realize that you're not perfect, or you're not the best person. And so going through that exercise, and then having somebody like Bill that doesn't say what you want to hear, but ask you
Yeah.
question that triggers other areas in you, and you're like, dang, how do I get out of this? When you realize you cannot, but you also realize that you're in a safe space, that you can talk to Bill about it.
Yeah.
And so it's okay to shed a tear and to be who you are, because nobody's judging you. And I think that's the problem that I have found in this society. There's so much judging, and it's
Yeah.
so easy to hurt people. And we think, I mean, with social media and everything that is going on, there are so many people that judge others, and they're hiding behind a computer somewhere, and they never have to face the confrontation. But it's so easy to judge other people without facing the the reality. And so Bill has helped me in understanding with myself how the first person you have to stop judging is yourself. And once you have been able to do that, then you can stop judging others, because
That's
you know
awesome.
who you are.
Yeah, I think that's so big. And Martin, I mean, being at the position where you're at now in life, did you have self-awareness before this? Did you go on any other journeys, or was this really the first, time that you really stepped into uncovering root systems in any way, or even recognizing that they were there? And was it so foreign to you because you've lived your life one way the entire time that's like, oh my gosh, this really is me? Like, where was I? I mean, what was that revelation for you like?
It's funny that you ask that, because as I said, I grew up in a privileged, prominent family in Sweden, and when I was 16, I had a life-changing event, or I've had many, as you heard before, but the personal life-changing and mental one, where I call it nervous sweating. I started to sweat in social events, and I was scared of going to movie theaters because I thought I would start sweating, and it took amazing proportions in my life, where I avoided to go to social events. I avoided to go to school classes and to presentations and stuff, because, like I said before, not that I was nervous of presenting, but I was nervous of getting sweaty and be considered, filthy or dirty or whatever, because I was sweating. Some people blush, I sweat. And that was very embarrassing for me. So I talked to my parents, and I won't mention which one of them, but one of them said, our family don't go to psychiatric treatment.
Wow.
And I'm like, why not? And they said, oh, because in Sweden it will stay in your records, and then everybody will know, and you will never get a good job, etc., etc. So I never got any treatment for it or seeked anybody that could help me. I talked to my hairdresser that say, oh, use this mantra, think about this when it happens. And tried all different kind of things, and then I moved to US, and my wife was the first person that, my first, girlfriend at that point, who accepted me for being who I was. And it was kind of interesting, because I still at work, there were moments when I was like, dang, do I really have to do this? Can't I send somebody else up? And now I need to do this for my own, for my own career, to be successful. And by a pure coincidence, several years ago, I went to a Rotary lunch, and there was a lawyer that had turned into a hypnotherapist. And I was like, I need to see you. So I went to see her and talked to her, and we talked for 1.5 hours, 2 hours about life in general. And then she said, now I will kind of put you to sleep. And I'm like, okay, or under hypnosis is perhaps a better term. But so I was like, okay, let's do this. And I'm like, you're not going to succeed. But lo and behold, before I knew it, all of a sudden I felt like I was sitting in a lawn chair, kind of hovering in the air. And she recorded it all. And afterwards, I found out a method where I could trick my autonomous nervous system not to go into sweating mode, but rather than just panicking when I start sweating. Because once you start sweating, your brain is way too slow to stop the sweating. But if you trigger your autonomous nervous system before you have come there, you can stop it. So I learned a trick how to do it, and that's all the kind of a treatment or some help I have gotten. And then I have just, tried to read self-help books that I think, sorry to say this, but a lot of self-help books are quite pathetic. Just very, very, they're very shallow. and just, you know, all these books about 7 ways to become more successful and all that. It just scratches the surface, right? It doesn't go into your soul or your heart. And learned a lot for that, but obviously not enough. So when like I said, when I met Francis the first time, I'm like, yep, here we go again. This is yet another one of these tools. But there was something with a test and something with sitting down with Francis afterwards that were like, wow, perhaps this really is for me. And then Bill and I met the first time, and in my mind, we connected very well on all different kind of levels, and it was just a pure pleasure to talk with Bill, and I got to learn a lot about myself from the first session, and then we compared my score with how I typically react and behave, and it was like, yes, of course, yes, that's me, and I've done this, and it was like, wow, the pieces just fell in place, and I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. This makes absolute sense. Still, you know, there are moments when I struggle. There are challenges in me. I, you know, panicked some weeks ago and hurt the person in my panic, and I regret it, but I cannot change it. I instead have to live with what I did and try to figure out, how can I not do this again? How can I become better and not go into this situation where I afterwards hate myself? And also, as a leader, you have to think about this, because you have responsibilities to investors, clients, employees, and you cannot just bail out. Sometimes I wish I had the more strict Martin next to me, and I could take that, say that you do this, so I can continue to be, you know, me. But you have to stand your ground sometimes and speak up, and I'm learning how to do that. It's still a journey for me to go through. But I'm learning every day, and I think about it, and I listen to audiobooks, and I listen to what Bill and I have talked about. It's fascinating. When people ask me how I'm doing, I don't think I've done mentally, despite some struggles in life right now, I don't think I mentally have been in a more solid place in my life than I am right now, except for perhaps when I was 5 or 6, when I didn't know about life challenges. I didn't know that I was fat back then. I was just cute and blonde.
I relate so much, Martin, to what you said about a lot of other tools only scratching the surface. And I was actually just having a conversation with Bill about this. Like, I've done other things in my past, other types of self-work, therapy, and it wasn't until I went and saw Bill and had my test results that I truly felt exposed, but in the best way possible. It was like, wow, this is me in a much better way than I ever could have articulated it. And it was so refreshing to kind of, Bill knew me right away before I even knew myself, really, because he could look at my results, and I was like, wow, this is the real deal. And ever since then, it's been such an eye-opening experience. And I agree even with what you said about being in such a good mental space. I can't say that I've ever felt as good as I do now doing the work, and it really is refreshing. And that's why I just value Bill and what he does so much, because I don't know how the rest of my life would have played out with all of that kind of negativity and trauma and whatever it is tainting my life like it was for so long.
Yeah, and it's you know, I traveled so much for a big portion of my life. I was gone like 9 to 10 months, full months every year, traveling somewhere in the world. And you know, every single airport has these self-help books in special stand that how to improve yourself, how to be more successful, and you pick them up. And I don't think I've, you know, completed any of them or finished any of them, because you get 3 chapters in and you think, no, it's not working. This is, you know, not really the deal. And then when you have this discussion, and I'm not trying to make you blush, Bill, but then when you have discussions with Bill, where you go into, instead of just scratching the surface, you go all the way into the core. Why do you really feel this way? Yeah. Why do you want to jump on the horse? What is it that is so scary with this? And why do you feel like an underdog? And it's you have to start thinking about, why is that? Why do I feel like this? And Bill said something once that resonated really, really well with me. That is, I think I'm the classical example. If you Google it, I come up. But it's like, don't let your thoughts capture you, but you need to capture your thoughts. And I'm a classical example of building up amazing scenarios in my head, and all of a sudden my thoughts are controlling me and what I'm doing and what I'm thinking. And then I go into situations and I'm like, wow, this wasn't as bad. And then I realized that, wow, it was my thoughts that had captured me. And since I had all these monsters in my head, I walked into situations that I thought would be absolutely horrible. And then once you come in there, it's like, wow, why did I have those thoughts? This is actually pretty nice. So, but telling your brain that don't let those thoughts capture you, but you control what is going on. You control what you want to do next. And as a leader, then for a startup company, same thing there. Don't let what everybody else is telling you create thoughts in your head that makes it hard for you to move forward. But really believe in yourself and what you're doing, that is making a difference, and that you can actually contribute to something good and make a change. And that has helped me, big time.
Now, I call that being free to be and free to become, and that's really what it's all about. And, that freedom, Martin, I alluded to a story before when you talked about up in the mountains or something in that guy's lake. And, we tied God into that scenario too. And maybe you can just share a little bit about, how you felt about things of God prior to our meeting, and, that whole piece of things, because that really has so much to do with just even that freedom to be, like I said, and freedom to enjoy the world around you and be more genuinely connected to it.
Yeah. So I'm like you all know, I'm born and raised in Sweden, where you're born into the church. You are by birth part of the church and the Lutheran church. And then we lived in Italy for a long time, which is Catholic in most parts, definitely. Um, and I never really believed in anything. I always thought that this was forced upon me. So in Sweden, you can opt out of church when you're 15, because a certain percentage of any Swedish crown you make goes to the church as a tax. And I'm like, why do I pay tax to the church when I don't believe in it? So I opted out, and then I've had my run-ins with religion throughout life in different ways, but there's never been anything that has kind of invited me in a good way. I believed in something. And when my mother passed away a year and a half ago, I went to Rome to light the candle in her favorite church in Santa Maria Maggiore in Rome, because it meant something to us to be in that church. So then I've always wondered about this. What's my purpose? And I've had two experiences in life where I have been really surprised and confused. One was in India many years ago, when we went to the International Yoga Festival, and all of a sudden there was a person that said, I need to talk to you. And he knew my name, and he was like, there's purpose for you in this world. And we spent 3 days together, and then he disappeared. And he knew things about me that I have not shared with other people. It was amazing to learn about this, and kind of, wow, where did this come from? How did he know about me, and who am I? And then a month ago, I went to Mount Shasta, and I did a lot of hiking and soul searching there. And I came down to a lake, and little did I know that it was a private lake, but I kind of snuck around and was swimming around in the lake and really enjoyed it. And when I walked out of there, I met a guy in a red pickup truck who didn't know who I was, out in the middle of nowhere. I could have been, serial killer or whatever it was worth, right? And he just stopped and humbly asked me if he could help me, or if I needed a ride. And I'm like, wow, why is this person so kind to me? And he was just genuinely kind. And then he said, oh, there's a water spout up there, a fresh spring where you can go and drink from. And please let me know if you need help. And I was so taken aback by this kindness, because when you live in big cities in the harsh environment today, everybody looks at you as if you are a potential threat, or if you are a villain, or who am I supposed to be afraid of here? he just openly greeted me in the middle of nowhere on a gravel road and talked to me for a little bit and offered his help. And I didn't need any help. I'm still a stuck-up man, so of course I don't need help to hike up this mountain. And then I sat there and I thought about this for a long time, and had great company thinking about life. And I think that is what it's about, to share and to be open and to realize that you need to give to get. You need to be able to embrace and not be scared. And then I reached out to this man afterwards. I found him. I did a lot of research. I found out that this lake was private and belonged to an LLC. I didn't find his contact information, but I found a state forest trooper that had written an article about it. So after a lot of research, I reached out to this man and thanked him for his kindness. And I promised him not to mention his name, but he's a fairly famous elderly startup person that was one of the first person in the world that enabled what we are doing right now, video on computers and sharing that. And so fairly wealthy, extremely wealthy. Still, he had the humbleness and kindness to ask me if I was doing okay. And that's, I think, is something that is very rare, that we don't see that too often. And he really set a good precedent for me in how to be and how to approach life and other people, that you learn from things. And if you reject before you get rejected, you never know if that would lead to something very good. So open up and not think that I better walk away first because he's going to scare me, but just be open. So it was in addition to many other things, that was a life-altering, it was an amazing day for many reasons. But that really kind of burned into the back of my head of how open and genuine he was. And he became kind of a little bit of a hero, because I would like to be, I don't need the money that he has, but I would love to have the same approach, that you help and you open up and you share with others. So that was an amazing experience.
Yeah, and your heart was repositioned. You were open to receive, that encounter, which was what made it so beautiful to me.
Yeah.
Is that the way that you described it when we first talked about it? It was, it was just like I was reading it in a book somewhere. That you had this wonderful encounter, like that.
Yeah.
That's what I mentioned earlier about like divine appointments along the way, and you've had lots of those in your own life, of course.
Yeah.
But that was one that you could walk away from and enjoy, and really walk away, refreshed, encouraged, enlightened.
Yeah.
As you moved forward.
And it's still with me, right? I mean, I just talked about it with a warm heart, right? So many great memories from that day. I had injured my leg earlier during that hike. So I was bleeding from my leg, but that wasn't the important thing for that day. It was having that experience with the people I had it with was just incredible and eye-opening in many, many ways. And he didn't have to be kind to me, but he was. And I was, twice as big as he is. And granted, he sat in a car, but there I come on a wilderness road. And it was just fascinating. And along with what you shared, Bill, there, that I've had several of those encounters in life where I have, like I said before, I've been in a car accident in 120 miles per hour in Germany and walked away from it, and been bitten by a rattlesnake and walked away from it, and been in avalanches and walked away from it, and been hit on my way to my aviation catering company. I was broadsided or T-boned by a Volvo 245 GL red, and I flew out to the street and a taxi drove over my legs, and I'm still here. So it's an amazing. There's a reason why I'm here, and I don't want to sound like I'm a fantastic human being in any way, but there you can deny those things and you can embrace them, saying, okay, somebody, whoever it is, wants me to be alive and do something, because otherwise I would have died during one of those events, and I didn't. So shame on me if I don't try to make the best out of it. And shame on me, even though I'm going through some personal challenges in life, if I just give up and lie down, which would be very easy to do. It would be easy to just say, you know what, I bankrupt this company and I do something else. But there's a reason. You need to believe in that, and that took a while for me to really believe in.
Well, it's wonderful walking this journey out with you, and it keeps going from here.
I know. This is just the start.
Just the beginning, yeah. Sure. So we're kind of running low on time, but we have one question at least asking about what book would you know to recommend to build confidence. That's a great one. I know that you read called The Process, but besides that one.
Great one.
The one that I have taken, and you will have to help me with the title because I always forget the title on this, but that's the Rabbi book.
The Rabbi's Heartbeat?
Yes. So I read that, and I have to be honest, the first time I read it, I thought, oh, this is a lot of Christian and God stuff in it. And I'm like, do I really need to read this? But then Bill said that if you eat the chicken wing, you spit out the bones. And so I have that with me or next to my bed, and I take it out and I read the page here and there. And all other books I read them from cover to cover. This one I read and I go back and I reread and I read a little bit more, and then I go back and reread and I try to think what it really means. And that book has really helped me a lot in understanding and giving context to things that I didn't understand.
So for everybody's benefit, this is what it looks like, The Rabbi's Heartbeat from Brennan Manning, which is really a devotional. So it's a great place to keep it at your, I wonder if you can even see that there, by your bedpost there, Martin, because that's how it's supposed to be read, is to kind of go back over it. I've been doing that for about 25 years.
Yeah.
So you can catch up to me by doing that, okay?
I will.
And I'll take this opportunity just to let everybody know that The Process, of course, is still available on all kinds of different venues. You can get that on Kindle. You can get that on audiobook. And the book of the week, by the way, is called Perfectly Yourself. It's very apropos for our talk with Martin today because he's becoming perfectly himself. And what a wonderful journey that is. I think Matt was the one that told me about this. Was that you, Matt?
Yeah, I love that book.
Yeah, I thought so. So, guys, did you have any last thoughts or questions for Martin?
No, I just we appreciate your time so much, Martin, and we've been hearing a lot about your story and just the journey that you've gone on so far, and it's very inspiring. I'm 23, Vanessa's 21, and one day to aspire to continue to grow, and as we grow older and become full adults, that we still have that open-minded spirit to rip out the root systems and grow. So I just appreciate your vulnerability, especially as a man. I think it's fantastic. So we appreciate that.
Me too. Thank you so much. I resonated with so much you spoke about, just about your worth and discrediting yourself and all of those things, and just I love hearing people talk that are doing the work, and you just almost feel this lightness about them because those things are starting to come out and not take hold of them anymore. And I just really appreciate you sharing. Everyone that comes on here, but you especially inspire me just to keep going and just work for that. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you. I want to end with that, being a leader for a big company, there is this kind of false impression or belief that just because you're a CEO and for a company and startup, you are, big and confident and you walk on water, right? That's not the case. There may be people that are like that, but a lot of us, we struggle in our own thoughts and a lot of things that we need to grow in. And I have been privileged and lucky enough that I, first of all, got to go to Necker Island and then meet Francis and Tony and then get connected with Bill and now with the two of you.
Thank
Yay.
you so much.
Yay.
Yeah.
I love the yays. So, well, thank you everybody so much for being here. Martin, thank you. I think we're going to be definitely doing a couple of more of these together, hopefully as we continue to journey together, and discovering. And don't go anywhere. So as we back out, don't leave. Next week, guess what? We're going to have Pastor Mike Signorelli from V1 Church with us. So we're looking forward to that one too. And boy, these things just keep getting better and better, right?
That they do, Bill.
And thank you, Frances. She left a comment.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. God bless you guys as you continue that journey too. And so, all right. So until next week, it looks like it's, go ahead, Ness.
EIS out.
There you go. Bye, everybody.